In this video, we're going to go over 5 reasons why you can't keep the weight off and how you can change it. And what I mean by this is you keep doing diet after diet. Maybe it's vegan, maybe it's keto, maybe it's carnivore, maybe it's just Whole30, 75 hard, something along those lines. Some type of restrictive diet where you have to cut out a full-on macronutrient, more often than not, carbs, or certain foods to ultimately lose the 20 plus pounds that you want to lose. And every time that you do this type of diet, you might see some short term results. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, maybe even it is 15 to 20 pounds. But shortly after you hop off that diet, you end up gaining that weight back, maybe even plus some. And then every time you actually gain this weight back, you get more and more frustrated. You're more and more guilty and shameful and asking yourself, why can't I keep this damn weight off? And you're flustered. You're discouraged. You're frustrated with yourself that you can't seem to keep any promises to yourself, that you can't seem to follow through with what you started. You always tend to fall back into your old patterns and ultimately find yourself back to where you started or even back a little bit more. So, we're going to get into 5 reasons why this may be, and then at the end of the video we're going to talk about some things that you can do to combat these things, and ultimately get to a point where you are losing 20 plus pounds sustainably, naturally, and keeping it off forever. So the number one thing is you think that certain foods are the problem when they are not. So when I first ever did a diet, this was this was in my senior year of high school. I am getting ready to go play football at Davidson College. I was running back, and I wanted to get in better shape for the next level. And I ultimately told myself, look, it's time that I start eating more vegetables. I always ate some fruits mostly, but I really just hated vegetables. And I really just need to clean up my diet. So around that time period, I actually started consuming a lot of bodybuilding culture type stuff. Christian Guzman was a big one that I was consuming a lot of at this time. So I start watching a lot of Christian Guzman stuff, and in that time period, kind of going down the rabbit hole of nutrition and fat loss. And let me also bodybuilding is not the way you want to eat if you are going to get ready to play football and at the next level, and totally different things. You don't want to be going that route with bodybuilding. So, but that was my introduction to diet culture ultimately, and in the fitness culture ultimately. So first time I ever started to go on a diet because I wanted to lean up and get in better shape ultimately, I cut out all sweets entirely. And because I thought that sweets were the problem to not being in the exact shape that I wanted to get in. I thought that sweets were ultimately just cutting sweets out. That was going to get me to the next level. In some ways, that can be true. And in others, it is very much of a limiting belief if it's not integrated into full system. So I cut out all sweets, and first I thought it was super easy. And I was like, dude, this is cake. I'm used to, because all growing up, I was like, my family is the sweets family. Like my last name in itself is, you're a Dittmer, you love sweets, you love food. So cutting out sweets was surprisingly easy for the first time that I did it. But I had the perfect storm. It was really easy because I was dialed, and I didn't have any real external stressors going on in my life. And ultimately that was the creation of, certain foods are a problem. And ultimately, when I actually got hit with some adversity, when I was really in the thick of dealing with my ACL injury, and I was at school and I was going through my rehab and just being away from school for the first time, and a lot of new stressors that I didn't know anything about what life was going to throw at me. Just an overall period of time, more stress than I had really ever dealt with before or experienced. And what did I go to? I went to comfort foods. I went to the things that I started to cut out. And then when I tried to lean back up, because I got to a point where I was really unhappy with the way I looked, hated the way I looked, hated the weight on the scale, I had a really, really bad relationship with those foods ultimately and started to create some binge behavior with those foods. So, number two, you think that you need to be perfect with your diet. So, this was absolutely me as well. I can't tell you how many times that I tried certain diets. I've done vegan, I've done carnivore, I've done keto, I've done just whole 30, and I've done tracking macros. And every time that I did a very restrictive diet and I fell off the wagon somehow, some way, ate something that I deemed bad, it would totally derail me to a point where I would just say, fuck it. I already fell off. I already fell off my diet and I'm no longer on track. Might as well just go all in from here. And then I go smash more sweets, more snacks, and then what does that create? More guilt and shame because I'm like, why the hell did I just do that to myself? Number three, slightly touched on it in number two parts of it. But number three is you have a poor relationship with food. And so this is going back into the guilt and the shameful mindset around having certain foods. So the biggest story, the worst story that I can remember in when I was in this time frame of really trying to lose weight was I was at a restaurant with my family. It was at BJ's Brewhouse. Many of you guys know what BJ's Brewhouse is. Best Pizookies ever. And just eat the damn Pizookie. That's all I gotta say. But best Pizookies ever. So I'm at BJ's Brewhouse. We're at a big family dinner, and some appetizers are on the table. And I'm sitting there looking at the appetizers on the table and thinking, I really want that, but you can't have it. You can't have it. It's gonna make you fat. You're gonna gain weight back. You can't have it. You cannot have that. Don't do it. Don't do it. All these things that are going on in my head. And ultimately, that stemmed from me thinking, and really going back to one as well, thinking that a certain food was going to totally derail me, neglecting all accountability upon myself. So this relationship that I was having with any type of food that I thought was bad, anytime that I was around it or started eating it, I started feeling more guilty and shameful for even wanting that food in general. And because something about it made me feel like it wasn't who I was. That's not who I am. I cannot have that. I need to have the six pack. I need to, in order to be happy or have some type of worth, I needed to have a six pack. That was the things that were going on in the back of my mind. I wasn't necessarily thinking that at that time, but those are the things that I was thinking about in the back of my mind. And the poor relationship with food ultimately stemmed from number one, and then in number two, ultimately, because thinking certain foods were the problem and then needing to be totally perfect with my diet. Those were two huge things that ultimately made me feel like if I had certain foods in general, mm, it was guilt, shame, and just total derailment from there and would ruin entire days sometimes, maybe even benders of days, and maybe even a week at a time until I'd finally snap out of it and be like, what am I doing? Number four, you restrict foods rather than choosing foods. So I'm really talking about language here. A big thing that happened with me, and this is still really, I'm gonna be honest with you, a work in progress, is it's a lot of conditioning that you're undoing in this process. But this mindset of I can't have that versus I'm choosing to have this is really, really game changing when it comes to our psychology. I'm be honest, I don't know exactly the underlining factor of that. I just know that it's really worked wonders in my own psychology and people that I've worked with in the past when it comes to I can't have that. I can't have those cookies versus I'm choosing to have fruit for dessert instead of cookies. And because in my experience, really this restricting, saying I can't have that just made me and people that I've worked with as well, made us want it more rather than saying like it's coming from a mindset of lack of, "No, I can't have that." You're focusing on the things that you can't have that you're being stripped of somehow, or you no longer it really comes down to identity, which is another kind of rabbit hole in itself, but it's this mindset around lack versus abundance in a way of, "No, I can't have that," and it's more negative versus, "No, like, I have all these other foods over here that I can choose from, and actually, this food is aligns a little bit more with my ultimate goal. So, I'm gonna choose that one, and it's not that that one's bad or I can't have that one, it's just right now for the time period that I'm in, the goals that I have right now, the season of life that I'm in, I'm going to choose this one because I think that this is going to suit me better for the goals that I have right now, season of life that I'm in right now. It is a total game changer. Very subtle language shifts, but totally changes the game. Do you hear my cat? And number 5 here is you emotional eat. So for me, my emotional eating tends to be in time periods of really stressful work. And I've gotten this much more under control, but I'm human and I can still catch myself in those patterns sometimes. But in the time period where I couldn't lose the weight and I was yo-yoing back and forth before I actually lost the 20 pounds and 20 plus pounds and kept it off, I emotionally ate big time. And one of the ones that are really big for me are certain life stressors. And work is a big one for me. So work, anytime that I have some type of, let's say, to-do list that I haven't gotten done yet or need to get done, and I feel myself getting a little more overwhelmed, a little more anxious, a little more stressed about thinking about everything that needs to get done, or I've gotten to the end of my day and I think about everything that I didn't get done on my to-do list, all of a sudden start thinking about food. And then I'm reaching for food rather than being more introspective. Okay, what's going on here? What am I feeling right now? What is being touched by a perception in my mind right now? A book that I'm actually re-listening to now, but one on this trek a while ago. It's called Mind Hacking Happiness by Sean Webb, volume 1 and 2. Very, very good. So it teaches you how to emotionally regulate yourself a little bit. And he asks two questions that you ask yourself whenever you are in a more heightened state. First, you kind of name it, tame it. Hey, I'm really stressed right now. And then you ask, what on my self map, which is just really identity, is being touched by perception in my mind? Oh, that is, it's paying the bills. I didn't get everything I needed to get done, so I perceive in my mind that I'm not going to be able to pay the bills somehow. So it's paying the bills. It's taking care of my fiance, my bride to be, and future family. Okay, let's just keep it very simple. And then what is the perception that triggered that emotion of the stress? Oh, it's I'm not going to be able to pay the bills if I don't get the things I need to get done for work, right? And then from there, you've actually toned the emotional regulation or the emotion down. And now you can think a little better. You can start to change your perspective a little bit, like going from negative perspective into more optimistic, like, oh no, I actually got this, and this done. I didn't get that done, but that can easily be changed to tomorrow. Or I can talk to the wife and say, hey, I'm going to get a little extra work done tonight. Just communicate with that. And then boom, you're in a better state of mind. You're not going and smashing some food. And then you're running into some guilt and shame. And then that is moving over into your personal life with wife or kids or loved ones, or maybe even snowballs down into other unhealthy behavior. So starting with the emotion is really, really a a pivotal skill to have. We're on a little bit of a tangent there as far as emotional eating, but like that is such an important the the solving the problem of emotional eating, but it's such an important skill, and it's Yeah, it needs to be shared. So now we're gonna get into the 5 things that ultimately help me lose the 20 plus pounds, keep it off sustainably, naturally, and keeping it off forever. I went from 218 and now this morning I was down to 196.4, and I lost a 20 plus pounds 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It was 2021, 2022 range, 2021 range, I think, I believe. So getting to that time period, past the time period, because within most people, I think it's within a year, 50% of them gain the weight back. I haven't seen the stats in a long time, but within a year, 50% of people gain the weight back. Within 2 years, like 80%. And then within like 3 years, 90% of people, something really large number. That might be a little bit too high or low, but it's really large number of people that actually gain it back within 2 or 3 years. And here, really important 5 things that I've done in this process that's really, really helped me. And number 1 is flexible dieting, including sweets and bread. Getting rid of the restrictive mindset whatsoever. I touched on this early in the video. Like, it has totally done wonders for me on just my mindset around food and not being obsessive over it. And I'm just not an optimal person from the standpoint of you need to cut out all things that aren't 100% whole or all things that we deem healthy. I think that our mind and the meaning that we give things plays a bigger role than we tend to give credit to at times. And to me, the opportunity cost of worrying about some sugar, worrying about a little bit of ice cream or a little bit of bread on a weekly basis, or sometimes small amounts on a daily basis, like, the opportunity cost outweighs trying to restrict and being obsessive about food constantly anytime we're at a family dinner, at my parents' or my parents' in-laws or soon-to-be in-laws' house, and we're enjoying some food. And I want to be able to connect with them. I don't want to be worrying about what's on the table constantly. And it's just done wonders for my mindset around food. So number 1, flexible dieting has been huge for me. Number 2, daily walks. Look, it helps you burn more calories and really regulating body weight. But it goes back to the emotional regulation part. Daily walks are so huge. Unplugged, let me emphasize, unplugged, no phone. And if you're going to bring your phone, make it a connection time. So if I do bring my phone on these walks now, I call somebody, that grandparents, old friends, somebody I haven't talked to in a while or just missing, thinking about, talk to them on the phone. Otherwise, leave the phone at home and just be. And because we're so plugged into this damn thing all the time, it's just good to unplug, soak in some fresh air, soak in some sun, and just be. I love to do this walk with my fiance and do with the dog as well. If you have a dog, it's easy walk. Just do it unplugged now. And yeah, this has been a game changer. Number 3, a training plan that is built for my life and my work. This is so underestimated because when you have a training plan that goes against life and work, you're only working against yourself. You're creating more stress for yourself because you're going into a training plan that may not take into account what kind of stress am I running into on a daily basis at work? What kind of stress do I have at home? Our body only understands stress. It doesn't understand the stress of a workout and versus financial versus professional versus relational. It only understands stress. So all these things, you might be going through a time period, a rough moment of a rough season with wife or loved one, on top of really hard financial time period, on top of, hey, work has dumped more projects on me, or I'm having to pursue more clients because I have this person that dropped off. All these things are going on. Okay, now I still have to train, but I'm continue on with what I tried to do 10 years ago or in a time period where I was single and I didn't have any other real world responsibilities versus all these other new responsibilities. It doesn't work. Your training plan needs to be in line with your lifestyle and your work. So 4, actually touched on this in the 5th thing with emotions, but learning how to regulate my emotions and constantly working on my mindset, more positive, more optimistic, trying to find good in things, not gaslighting myself, but emotionally regulating myself and then finding more positive things in any type of situation. Look, there's just no point in dwelling on negative things. Yes, I have stress. Yes, I get affected by negative things at times, but overwhelmingly, I'm able to flip my mindset into, hey, our minds can create these situations, try to make meaning of something that is so much worse than it actually is a lot of times. And being able to regulate and see what's going on in those moments is absolutely game changing. Number five is a rhythm of prayer and meditation daily, making sure that prayer and meditation is the first thing that I do in my time. I always go back to Matthew 6:33. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these will be given to you. So I try to posture myself every day. The first thing that I do is I set my eyes upon God. And that's been, do I have moments where sometimes I check my phone before? Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a human as well. I do that sometimes. But a lot of times, that's my mindset. I'm trying to posture myself there. And that is just starting there and knowing that the first thing I'm doing in my day is going to Him. That is invaluable. And I don't really need to speak on that anymore. But ultimately, those are the five things that have ultimately really, really helped me in my process in keeping my weight off, my 20 plus pounds off sustainably, naturally, and keep it off forever, ultimately. So if you resonated with this video and a lot of this sounded like you, I'd love to connect with you on Instagram. You can also book a call down below. I'll put my call link down below. And if you just want to connect on Instagram, shoot me a DM over there. Also, subscribe, leave any comments, anything that you'd like to see more of, any questions below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.